Pleasant good afternoon. Good afternoon, all students. Welcome to the Friday afternoon's episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Today is Friday, the 10th day of October in the year of our Lord 2025. And here we are again for another episode, what promises to be another exciting, informative, educational episode of Speaking Out. Welcome. As you come on, we always invite you to share the live. Let others know that we're on this great sunny Friday afternoon. Another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks to being in the land of the living. It is a privilege to be in the land of the living, and we should never, ever take that for granted. Praise be to the Almighty for allowing us to see this grand new day. So yes, here we are. Lots to tell you this afternoon. My colleague, CC, in the studio waiting to bring you credible, valuable information. But we say, share the live. Let them know that we're on. You know, sometimes the Friday, it picks up a little slowly. We know Friday you're preparing for your weekend. Hope you have a wonderful, relaxing, enjoyable weekend. I think relaxing and re-energizing are the important things, you know. Relax and re-energize. Some people, Friday, you take your little recreation. You take your toops, as we would say. Yes, it's good. You put the stress of the week behind you and you relax. People who are homemakers, they have lots of things to do. Women have to go to the market, meant to look at clothes, wash clothes, do your laundry, do so many other things. And it's always good to reach that Friday afternoon. If you're a public servant, 3:30 Friday afternoon, you're off until Monday morning. And you know, I'm sure you can relate to this. These 2 days, this Saturday and Sunday, is done quick. Somebody tell you, blink, it's Monday again that you have to go back to work. Well, let me say this. If you are doing a job that you enjoy, you look forward to going back to office on Monday. But if you are in a situation where you don't look forward to going back, something is wrong. You're not getting the type of job satisfaction. You're not getting pleasure from the type of job. You need to look at that very, very carefully. Well, you should be working where you're anxious, you're happy, you're glad to get back into the grind on Monday. So yes, great day, and share the live. We schedule the program, gates open at 2 o'clock, and by now, people just rushing to the schoolyard. When we went live, the school doors are open, something similar. People are there. You want to hear, and we will continue to bring the information to you. Even though you're dissing me when you don't come, or you don't hit the thumbs up button, and you're dissing me, but notwithstanding that, we're going to keep coming and keep bringing to you credible, valuable information. Like every day, we have lots to tell you this afternoon. We have a lot to tell you this afternoon. So we're going to do the roll call. We recognize the first set of people who came into the schoolyard and the class, and then we're going to go make the announcements, and we're going to bring you the information. First man in, not surprising, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he come down from the hills a long time and just lining by the school gate to get in. Then it was Gavin, Wayne from the UK, Kenneth, the all school came at 2 o'clock, Kenneth from Maryland, Peter, Ulrich, West Dem, Lucius, East Bank, Carl, Earl, Patrick from the UK, Leon Gibbons, Sean from upstate New York, Aubrey from Canada, Brian, Rawl, 11752. Then it was Kevin, Vibert, Lawson, 9066. Patricia from New Jersey, she came at 201. The ones that they called before came exactly 2. She came at 201. Carlton Lewis, my squad mate, Vashti, and Puran from Essequibo Coast, Dexter, Bradshaw, 11032, Petersall and the East Bank, Forgus, Melinda, 12538 Junior, Clifton all the way from Paris, Desiree from Georgia, Courtney, Claire, Richard, Magnell, Mahadio, Then Brenda Vibert, next Vibert, this is 7464. Vibert Smith, Rosalind, Trotty is here. Then it is Diane, Janella, and the list goes on and on. Philip, Orin, Vibert, next Vibert on the East Bank. And those are the people who came very early. Those are the YouTubers. And then when we opened the school gate, we had people who came in. Let me see. The first man, as usual, Edward Charles is here. He said work. Maybe he's at work. Then we had Carrie Ann, Aubrey, Joan from New Amsterdam, Junior, Wills. Then it was Rosie Rose. The angel is here very early too. And the list goes on and on. Rhonda. Then I'm still in the house. She's here. Pinky. She's here. Yes, 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 students. Sit back. Take up your positions. And we are going to bring you, after the announcements, which I'll start to make now. You know, we make the sad ones first. We talk about deaths. And we announced some programs ago the death of a former member, Marva Glasgow, W257. I received word that she was or will be cremated sometime today in Ohio, in the United States. And my information is that there is going to be a memorial service at some time in Brooklyn, New York. The dates have not been finalized, or the day has not been finalized. When that is done and the information is passed to us, we will bring you that information. And then I told you too about the death of Bora Johnson's son, you know, retired Inspector Bora Johnson. Almost everybody from the TSU and headquarters compound with no Bora. Well, Bora died last year, November, and I met his son at his viewing for the first time. And I was shocked about a week ago to learn that the son has now passed. And information is that his funeral will take place on the 13th of this month. They said the viewing at Jerrick's Funeral Home on the East Coast between 9 and 11. Then to his residence, Andenveld, Maika, for further viewing from 11:30 to 1. And then you go to the Living Fountain Ministry for service at 2 p.m. And we understand that the wake will be held on the 11th and the 12th at his residence, that is Andenveld, Mahaika. And then we learned on Wednesday, I think, of the death of an attorney at law, Rini Kisoon. Rini Kisoon, she was the wife of the current acting Chief Justice. She was from the Kisoon clan, those lawyers, the judge, and all of them. So I want to express sympathy, condolences to the relatives, friends, associates of all those persons who have deceased, and wish and pray that the good Lord will give you the strength to carry on. Special condolences to the Kisoon family and Justice Navendra Singh, right? Then to move on to the more pleasant announcements. We don't have any birthday that we know of today, but we have a belated birthday to one Aubrey Robert. It's a belated birthday. Aubrey Roberts recently celebrated his 99th birthday. And I understand you don't miss the program. 99th, known as Laba. Aubrey Robert, known as Laba, recently celebrated his 99th. Well, baton, my brother, baton. When you get to 99, it's to get to your century. And when you get to century, you still have to baton. You still have to baton. And then we have an advanced birthday greeting to a loyal student. I refer to Sean Robinjanath. I'm sure he's on. I called him earlier, upstate New York. Sean is going to be observing his 55th birthday tomorrow, or his birth anniversary, as you want to be correct. And 55, he retired as a sergeant. It means that if he had remained in the force, right now he might have been on pre-retirement leave. And Sean, according to the system, you'd have remained a member of the force until the last day of your birth month. So not Monday when you reach 55. The public service rules are that you remain a member until the last day in October, and then the first day in November, you will then be a civilian. Well, it doesn't apply to everyone, because we know the extended squatter, he had several birthdays past 55. We're not even sure what is the correct age now. But what I told you, what I just said, that's the public service rules. on the you continue to be a member of the organization until the last day of your birth month. On the first day of the new month, then you are a civilian. So I need it to so again, all the birthday greetings to all those who are, whether you are announced or not, observing today, had your birthday recently, or you are going to celebrate in the near future. Recently, too, we had retired woman assistant superintendent Selena Marshall. We had a loyal student here, Marlon Harper. They all celebrated recently. All the best to them. Before I bring in CC, I have to shout out to the Canadian students. This is Thanksgiving weekend in Canada. Canada observes or celebrates Thanksgiving on the second Monday in October. In the US, I think it's the fourth Thursday, no? The fourth Thursday in November. But in Canada, it is the second Monday in October. So Monday can be Thanksgiving. So Canada into the Thanksgiving weekend. And CC is a cricketer. West Indies start the first day. The first day of the second test started, and I must announce that India won the toss and elected to bat. And at the end of 90 overs on the first day, they are 318 for 2. 318 for 2. Jaishwal 173 not out. Warikan, the one get the only get 2 for 2 for something he get. And somebody told me that it seems that the wicket is turning because Warikan, we have three spinners, Warikan, the captain Chase, and Caripere. And the wicket turning, but they can't make no big inroad. Warikan get KL Rahul stump, and then he get Sadasi and LBW. So we can look out for next 3-day test match because I anticipate, and again, I ain't talking sentiments, 300 runs in a day, it means you're going at an average of 100 per session, right? And if you bat 2 more sessions to T on the second day, you're likely to be 500 going. And if you set your eyes on the clearing around T or after T, and you accelerate the pace, you're close to 600 by tea time on the second day. And West Indies, let me tell you all this. In the first test, in the first innings, they batted for 44.1 overs. In the second innings, they batted 1 over more, 45.1 overs. So therefore, 44 and 45 is 89. And therefore, they batted 2 times. So unless there's a dramatic and drastic improvement, one can anticipate that they're going to get full up very well. I'm not praying for this. I'm being realistic. That is what has happened. That is what has happened. So for the cricketers on the live, those who are, well, some of them are dedicated followers. They're going to continue to look and so on. I just follow the score. No, follow. Not look, but I just follow. So we bring in CC for his welcome and opening remarks. CC, welcome, my brother. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be in the land of the living to do God's work. And I want to shout out to Laba, 99 years old. He celebrated his birthday. We spoke a couple of months ago. And understand he's give them hell home there when they can't get the internet for him to listen to the program. Keep on batting, Lava, just a single away. I'm talking about singles, West Indies. They had some positives, Paul. They didn't bowl a no ball. They didn't bowl a wide. And then they didn't give away a bye. No ball, no wide, didn't give away a bye. But then when you look at the records, we look at the records, is that in the last 14 innings, 12 times they fell below 200, including one instance where they got 27. That includes 7 ducks. And when you look at the other side of the Atlantic, where England played a case, England played a match there against India, and they had 6 ducks, but they scored 407 runs. Well, all is cricket. We wish West Indies well. As I said, let's start with a positive. No ball, no wide, no bye.
Yeah, no wall, no wide, no buy, no extras, right? Because they can't afford to give extras. I don't think they can't. I I'm reminded here that Monday too is Columbus Day in the U.S. Columbus Day. You know, Christopher Columbus, the man what they say discover America. We got to listen to the song. They say discover America, but when he come, you have to run from Apache. That there's a song. Christopher Columbus was a damn blasted liar. So yeah, all you discover and you come and you meet people at the place. So there's a debate over that. And somebody's telling me that the Thanksgiving is the last Thursday in November. I'm sure it's the last Thursday. I think it might be the fourth Thursday. I remember some years ago, I get misled because I was thinking the last Thursday, but that month, that year, at 5 Thursdays. It had 5 Thursdays. I always remember that. It had 5 Thursdays that year, some years back, and I couldn't be in the States for Thanksgiving. And I used to make it my duty to be there for Thanksgiving. But I got misled because I was thinking 4 Thursday, and I catered for the 4 Thursday. But it turned out I catered for the last Thursday. I was thinking the last Thursday. But in that particular year, November had 4 Thursdays. What I'm saying, November had 5 Thursdays in that year. So then they realized it's the fourth Thursday, and therefore I missed it then. So we got to check it out. We don't want to give you any that wasn't shadow, man. The Christopher Columbus was a shadow, right? Was the next his shadow sang about it too. But there was another singer who sang Christopher Columbus, one of the Jamaican singers. Yeah. Well, yeah, they're just telling me it's the fourth Thursday. So remember that it's very rare that for November to get 5, but if November has 5 Thursdays, then it is the fourth Thursday and not the fifth. I was misled, and I always remember that. But let me move on. On Wednesday, I told you guys, I reported that I had court engagement on Thursday. That's yesterday. I attended court yesterday. I don't charge sexual assault, 3 charges. I can't give you the details and all of that, but I think it is known. It was reported in the media and thing. 3 charges. Yeah, born in space, sang that song. Yesterday, well, they make big fuss, big nice, the police, and them, if she released, Slow called upon to lead a defense and give the impression that Slow was guilty of something. They're guilty of nothing. Right? So yesterday I led my defense, and the defense was completed yesterday. The magistrate has decided that we're gonna make written submissions, which is a normal thing. We're gonna make written submissions. We are given the 31st of this month to make the submission. And then I think the prosecutor will have 2 weeks to reply to the submission. And sometime after that, a ruling will be made. So that's to bring you, I can't go into details. The time will come. The time will come. I hope soon when you're going to hear everything. You're going to hear everything. I can't relate some things now. So that is yesterday. Where I led my defense. I gave evidence. They were supporting evidence. And that is what took place. And then I'm going again. I have to go to court again on Tuesday. That's Tuesday coming with this anonymity of complaint charge and so on. I said, yeah, they're trying with your teacher. They're trying with your teacher, but I ain't giving up. No threat, no intimidation. By now they ought to know. I mean, they're stupid, but by now they can't be that stupid not to know that they can't intimidate me. I have said repeatedly, I have no fear. I do nothing, fear nothing. And I said to what they do, they sit down and they're planning, they're going to do you harm, they're going to kill you, what they're going to kill you. Fear of death is perhaps one of the most irrational fears there is. We all have to die. So if we all have to die, why should we be afraid of dying? Good question. We all have to die. You can't live, look at you, thief, and all the money with the embezzle, and all the lies that they're telling people, and all the ills they do. You do good, you have to die one day. Right? So I'm not afraid of them. By now they have to know that. I take on the IS, not one time, more than once. Take them on. Because I know people know me, I know if I'm in my right, I stand up for my right, whatever it costs me. I stand up. In the case I stood up for my rights in the Bobby's incident, I remained an assistant commissioner for 11 years. Never mind. Because what I have, and I say this myself, what I have, let me blow my old trumpet, right? They can't get, and that is respect and integrity. You can't buy that. You can't buy respect, you can't buy integrity. No matter how higher office you hold, respect is not, respect has to be earned. And I believe I have done enough in this country called Guyana and in the Caribbean, working in the Caribbean, to earn the respect of people. Because you can't mess with me and my integrity. I don't compromise on that. I don't compromise on integrity. So all this thing where they're talking about bribery and all that everything, no one, I said so when I retired in 2010, no one can come and accuse me of being corrupt and taking any bribe. None. And by now you all know that if they had anything on me in that nature, they would have got them plastered all over the place. They would have it plastered all over the place. But I can't, because even one of the cockroaches that they send out, the second ones who try to think they'll get shoot down. Because people know who I am, including them, including some of those PPP, the senior ones. They know who Paul Slow is. They know who I am, right? They know that. So let me understand this clearly. So I get my dates with the court, and I will. I don't run. I mean, I run right from nothing. I'm not running. I'm not hiding from anything. I'll face up, and I'll clear my name. I will clear my name, right? Let me bring in CC if he wants to say anything at this stage, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, Paul. According to Shakespeare, cowards die many times before their deaths. A brave man will taste it but once. And he also said that death is a necessary end. It comes when it comes. It will come when it comes. A necessary end. So don't be afraid of it. They say cowards die many times before their death. But brave man will taste it but once. And it is a necessary end. We jump about the place. It is a necessary end.
And let me tell you this, we had a man, Nako Cummins, 5798. Cummins from the TSU, the older police, you remember Dako. Dako used to say, right, I am tested and proven to be made of pure steel. That's what Dako used to say in his own inimitable way. I am tested and proven to be made of pure steel. When you are among Dako, that's what he used to tell you. Stop being mad with them. Yeah, man, I am not compromising on my integrity. Jack Dio know that. The current president know that. All of them know that. All of them know that when it comes to integrity, no, I ain't messing with that. Right? I'm not at this age, 70 and going, I can sell my soul and sell my respect for a couple of shillings. No way. I didn't do it then, I ain't gonna do it now. I didn't do it then, I will not do it now. Now let me move on. I just note the unusual. I have been trained to note the unusual. And one of the unusual things that I've noted in the past month or so is the absence of social media of one Amir Ahmad. Man used to there every day he talking something on social media. The sheriff guy. So, I wonder, I hope he's well. I hope he's well. I hope Captain eat his tongue. But I noted that he has been absent from social media, conspicuously absent over the past couple of weeks or so. I know he's muzzled. And then, surprisingly, yesterday, towards, on Wednesday, I played the tune. We talk about Inida Makume. Somebody's calling me to disrupt this program at this stage. Let me bust off this thing in there. Right, yeah, so, we talk about Inida Makume. I played the song by Duke. But you understand, yesterday they had no, well, I don't know if you call it press conference, but the second vice president, did not have his usual Thursday afternoon talk. Let me put it that way, put it as decent as I can. Did not. I wonder why. In the past couple of weeks, he has not been as consistent with the talks as he was, as we had grown accustomed to having him. Wonder why. So just observation. Just observation. Now, let me say this too. I saw something in the papers recently, an incident at Cockbrant. Cockbrant, there's always East Bank Bobby's there, where a 62-year-old man is alleged to have raped a 6-year-old child. And when the thing, people ask some questions, I ain't gonna repeat the questions that are, but you can imagine. Something is wrong. 62-year-old man is accused of raping a 6-year-old child. That can be, if it is, it's an allegation, but there got to be something at the wrong, something definitely wrong with that person. How can you do that? How can someone do that? Right? And some people made some comments here, which even though I agree with, I ain't gonna repeat it. And I just always say, it's a good thing I ain't get no little female. Well, not only female, because now some of them are so vicious, they don't discriminate in relation to gender. But they are sick people. They are sick people, right? They are sick people. And then the next thing that I noted is that the man who killed the 15-year-old, you remember we told you sometime last week that this guy is west there, I think it's Chodeville or somewhere, he flocked somewhere across the river there. He and his 15-year-old stepson had this argument over bicycle. Apparently the stepson used the bicycle and the lane slipped. And because of that, the claiming that the man ran into the house, pick up a cutlass, and chop that little boy in his neck, killing him. And then he turned himself, he walked into the police station and turned himself in. Say, a bicycle chain slip, man? That is a regular occurrence and an easy fix. Regular occurrence and an easy fix. But that is the society in which we live. Man raping 6-year-old girl. Policeman get relationship with a 15-year-old, and you know that covering up. Man from Region 1. That is the type of a sick society that we are living in. That is the sick society we living in. But I'm glad I ain't get them type of little pick-me as relative, whether grandchildren or anything like that. Because sometimes, you know, like Lewis used to say, the Spirit of God don't dwell with man every day, you know. He just said the Spirit of man, right? The Spirit of God does not dwell with man every day. Right? Let me bring in CC to comment on those, and then I'm going to move on. CC, 62-year-old man raping a 6-year-old child?
I read it, you know, and I wonder, so maybe it's a mistake, man. Maybe it's a sexual offense and a rape. I can't fathom it. A 62-year-old, a 6-year-old. Something in some right there, man. Let's hope that the reporter didn't get the facts right. You know. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right at all. I remember Larry Lewis, you know, he and a certain man who died some time ago, and the officer alleged to have committed himself, you know, and he went to Larry Lewis, and Larry Lewis pull his jaw and take out a shine gun and start clean the gun and say, not all time the Spirit of the Lord has been with me, you know. Not all time this and you thing in the shine gun and I think the officer collapsed in the office there, you know. So, you know, Larry Lewis use all kind of tactics and strategy.
I was there. The man, when Larry Lewis pushed his hand in the drawer and he took out a shining pistol and he started to clean it with something. And he was glancing at the guy and saying, you know, it's not every day the Spirit of man does dwell, the Spirit of God dwells with man. And then Larry Lewis said, yes, let me hear you. The man couldn't talk. Normally, the man used to stammer. Well, Larry Lewis said, yeah, let me hear it. The man couldn't talk. Larry Lewis is wicked bad. Larry Lewis is wicked bad. I remember I was there that day in his office. In those days, meetings, I was on CTSU, young officer there. Meetings used to be kept in his office. And that is what Larry Lewis did. So, yeah. Now, let me move on. You should note, I'm going to deal with it much today because I got to do something, that the Nobel Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, that coveted prize was announced today. And the Venezuelan opposition leader, the Venezuelan, let me get your name and thing right. I get it written down here. The Venezuelan opposition leader won the Nobel Peace Prize, right? Venezuelan opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, however they pronounce it. She won the Nobel Peace Prize. And it's good to read her resume, which I did this morning. She is the opposition leader there, and the Maduro, the Venezuelan dictator, at the last elections, the elector prevented her from running. She became very popular, and they prevented her from contesting the elections. Now, our efforts have been recognized by the Nobel Committee, and she's awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for 2025. Other people wanted it. There were other people who were lobbying for it, but this lady got it. She got it there, and there's an interview, but I can't play it because I didn't get to download it. Maria Corina Machado, she has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for 2025, right? So moving on, let me tell you all, I read something somewhere. Let me see if I could put it up here. Where the president is said to have, hold on, bear with me a minute. I think I made up, yes. No, oh yes. It is said that the Ministry of Housing has been tasked with examining the feasibility of a new railway link connecting the East Coast and the East Bank of Demerara. That is a statement accredited to the president in finale, that the Ministry of Housing has been tasked with examining the feasibility of a new railway link connecting the East Coast and the East Bank of Demerara. Railway link connecting that, but the Ministry of Housing. So I want to know, first thing that struck me, Ministry of Housing, shouldn't that be a jail ministry? I know Works and Transport or whatever it named. And let me say this too, and because that is one of the things that reached out at me. Yes, perhaps it's necessary, but I would think that of more immediacy would be maybe a study to make sure that we get back proper public transportation, which I believe, if the will is there, can be implemented much faster because we already have road network. We already have road network where we can have public transportation. I said so some time ago. They're talking about minibuses and minibuses. It's time that Guyana get perhaps a dual arrangement, public transportation with larger buses, maybe initially traversing the longer routes. And you get places, and don't tell me about minibus people going to be put out of work and so on. You got Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, right? Right in the Caribbean. They have minibuses, but they also have public, well-organized public transportation. And I would think that it is time, while again I say the railway link to link East Bank and East Coast, that is futuristic. Let me agree. That can't happen within the next 5-6 years because all they're asking now for study. But I'm saying that if there's a will to look at bringing back public transportation within a year or two the most, that can be, Antigua too has it. But it is necessary. And if we look at carnage on the road, all of those things we have to consider. All of those things should be considered. Proper public transportation on proper schedule. And it used to be there, I remember when I was in training school in 1974, you get your afternoon pass. You knew what time you had to catch the bus by Big Market, and they used to put you off right at the top of the seawall, Camp Road and Seawall. That was a stop. That was the final stop. You caught the bus. Linden Highway. You catch the bus at the place there. You're gone on the highway. I used to go by Big T. There, you know the schedule of the bus. You go out, you catch the bus, and you go. It's time, man. If we're talking about development and we talk about order, we got to look at all of those things. This haphazard arrangement that we have that contributes significantly to the carnage on the road, government should seek to address that too. Yeah, you come with this railway thing. Yeah, railway thing might be necessary because they've gone to develop places, countries, and cities and so on. They get rail and all of that. Yeah, I think it is necessary, but I think of more immediate attention should be paid to the public transportation, bringing back proper public transportation. We had it. We had it with the buses. The last time they tried with it, they brought the buses from Brazil, Cayo, and something went wrong, and that was abandoned. That was abandoned. I think the buses were sent from Guyana to Jamaica. Let me hear CC on this. Yeah, CC,
Yeah,
public
yeah,
transportation.
I agree. Public transportation is critical, and that is the. But if you're going to the railway, I think that's going to take years, and they call for multi ministries collaboration to deal with that. And a quick one. I remember the public transportation, because when I got transferred from training school to Myconi, they had the public transportation, those big buses, and they had a terminal at Myconi, and the buses stopped there. And my grandmother was living in Georgetown, used to cook for me. She used to send lunch and dinner through the public transportation. I used to go to the bus terminal and collect my meals. And then after suddenly they didn't know they used to work good, because sometimes they used to carry the thing to George, to Rosignol and all sort of things. And then I stopped the arrangement and I start cook for myself. And my grandmother get worried. She say, you must get some little girl cooking for you or some big woman cooking for you. But that wasn't the thing. I used to cook. I used to burn my own fingers.
Yeah. Right. So those, yeah, and that thing is very futuristic about railway, so on. And again, as one student commented, it seems like the responsibilities of the ministries are changed from change. Because if we talk about public transportation, I don't know the Ministry of Housing get involved in that. I would have thought that is the Ministry of Jill's ministry, and he would have been the thing. 'Cause right now they're responsible for transportation. And I would have thought that they were the ones who would have been put to deal to do this feasibility study or whatever they call it. Yes, student, I saw this. Someone of the cockroaches there, what is name? Barakar. You only see them name, So I've already deleted the common expletive and so on. They're gonna send them. One of them will come. They don't want to be educated, they don't want to learn. Some of them are incapable of being educated. Incapable. That then in the gutter, there is where they shall remain, right? And I made a mistake. I just delete the comment. Why I'm black. He can come again with some style and fashion, and I'm blacky. I'm blacky. Now, next thing too, I noted we did report on it some time ago that the murder trial of Christophe de Nabriga, the policeman from Special Branch, was accused of murdering this boy there. What is his name? Yeah, remind me, man. I get a little old, right? So that trial is going on. We understand that the trial is going on, and let's wait to see what will happen there, right? But the police Lance Corporal de Nabriga, who is facing murder trial, Quindan Bacchus murder trial, that's the information that is ongoing. Quindan Bacchus murder trial that is ongoing. Now, we say corruption is rampant in Ghana. Don't let we hide the face. Don't let we hide. Don't let we bury we head like the sun, like what the PPP supporters are doing. Not all of them, because many of them have admitted that there's corruption. Many of them have admitted, but even though they say corruption, they still want them there. They still want them to continue 5 more years of corruption. They can't change. It's in the DNA. It's in the DNA. They can't change. They've got to be corrupt. But I saw it's today's paper, yes. CGIA, that's a Cherry Jagger International report, and CL, there's a Caribbean line. They're to probe bribery allegations. There's a release from them. Some bribery allegations. I'll give you all the details because it was only last week, I think it was, or the week before, when there was a bribery allegations at the airport where they allege that a police inspector and other members of the force either demanded or took $10,000 from an outgoing passenger. That is what was there. And then it was reported that they were then ordered, the president then ordered them that all the persons there must wear body camera. And we commented on it because we say it was unfair with the image that they projected, because in the article, they put the pictures of immigration ranks, police immigration ranks. And the allegation was not against immigration ranks. It was against ranks who were there, I understand, from the narcotics branch of the police. Tech thing, where they move them, camera and thing, OPR to investigate. We hear not more about it. OPR to investigate. I know the persons against whom the allegation was made, the inspector, was seen at PVP rally. They account with the PVP red T-shirt and polo shirt. So when you see that, chances are that you get political coverage. Corruption. Now, they're saying now that this thing, the CGIA and CAL can investigate this thing, right? CGA and Caribbean Airline will investigate. I didn't hear them mention anything about the police. But again, I saw that a photograph was put up there, and the photograph had immigration people, creating the impression that is the immigration people involved in this corruption scandal. And when you read the thing, it says here that the Chedijagan International Airport has assured the traveling public that is treating the recent bribery and extortion allegation involving overweight baggage fees at Caribbean Airlines check-in counter with the utmost seriousness. In a statement yesterday, CGIA said it is working closely with Caribbean Airlines and relevant authorities to conduct a thorough investigation into the claim made by a passenger who alleged that airline staff solicited cash payment to waive overweight baggage charges. The airport reminded passengers that all official payments must be made directly to the airline through approved channels and that an official receipt must be issued for every transaction. And then they say, quote, no payment should ever be made to any individual officer or staff, end the quote. The statement emphasized. Travelers are encouraged to report any suspected instance of bribery or corruption, and then they get a number and they get an email address here to report it to. The airport further highlighted its commitment to transparency and accountability, noting that during the first 9 months, they return back and they get a whole set of things that are found in the return to passenger, right? And then it says here the airport statement comes amid a joint investigation launched early this week into allegations that employees attached to the Caribbean Airlines check-in department at CGIA solicited bribes from passengers to overlook overweight baggage fees. Authorities have since urged anyone who may experience or witness similar misconduct to come forward as the probe continues. But here what has happened? They said Starbrook News on the 17th of November reported, 7th of October, reported that a joint investigation had been launched following allegation that employees attached to the Caribbean Airlines check-in department at CGIA had solicited bribes from passengers to overlook weed. According to the report, a passenger, they have the passenger name here, claimed that several members of our travel group who were traveling to Canada were approached at a check-in desk and allegedly demanded cash payment to settle overweight baggage fees. The passengers were reportedly informed that they owed approximately 32,000 Guyana dollars each in official charges, but were allegedly told the issue could be resolved for 20,000 Guyana dollars in cash. The person said they eventually paid $30,000 discreetly and handed over through a passport at the counter. Following their return to Canada, the passenger alerted local authorities, prompting a joint investigation into Caribbean Airlines and the Guyana Police Force. The matter escalated when a passenger discovered that a pouch containing 100,000 Guyana dollars and 1,000 Canadian dollars and several pieces of jewelry had gone missing. Although the pouch was later recovered at the airport, the valuables were gone. The person further alleged that she had been charged $75 US for overweight luggage during a previous trip, despite her bags being within the legal limit, suggesting that airport scales may be tampered with to facilitate illicit collections. The allegations surfaced shortly after President Ali directed at immigration and security personnel at the airport wear body cameras to reduce misconduct and improve accountability. The latest claim, however, indicate that corrupt practices may extend to airline operations. Such an embarrassment. People traveling, I guess they're Guyanese, but this is what the report is. This is what is being reported, and this is what I'm investigating. So we talk about corruption. The thing is widespread. At least, again, these are allegations. But I want to say this, and that is the problem we have. When allegations are made, there is no proper investigation. And even when there is an investigation, whether proper or not, people are not kept abreast of what's going on. So the suspicion is there. People suspect cover-up. Because we had the story with the inspector of police that set place under close arrest and some other ranks for collecting the $10,000. We ain't hear nothing no more. We haven't heard anything no more. So this fuels suspicion of corrupt and all of that. You make big noise. The people are placed under close arrest and investigation by OPR. There's about 2 weeks now, and you're not hearing anything further. So people are justified in thinking that another one under the carpet. Because this one, they said police, CGIA, Cal, and the investigating. Let me hope you hear something further. And the case, the thing is they talk about body cameras. Them airport get a lot of CCTV. All these things are happening, and these things are not caught on camera. A whole set of drugs put on container and ask them to load and board aircraft. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. And I don't, look, let me tell you something. Security is my forte. And I don't think it can be that difficult to put a system. No system is foolproof. Let me understand that. No system is foolproof. But you can put a system in place to greatly reduce the opportunity for people to get involved in corruption. And equally important, when they are caught, they must be dealt with firmly, quickly, condignly. And that is the part that is lacking. That is the part that I believe is lacking. That people are caught, a long, drawn-out thing, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens. So people are emboldened. So if you want to do it and get away, perhaps I can take the chance and do it too. That is what I believe is happening. Corruption is there. And as I've said, about a year or so ago, perhaps even a little longer, the PPP and them denying about corruption. No, corruption, she said, bring the evidence. Bring the evidence. And then what happens? You get police officers sanctioned for drugs. Police officers, senior officers, 252 charges. Then the senior government functionary sanctioned for corruption. And then the top will tell you now they're going to investigate. And then they tell you they're going to establish anti-corruption unit when they win. Now they win, you hear nothing. One would have thought too that would have been in the forefront. This unit would have talked about anti-corruption unit to be established. Today in the manifesto, up to now, they're going to delay, like how they delaying the proclamation for parliament. We're going to deal with that a little while. But corruption is something you have to confront frontally. The problem is, many of the people who are expected to deal with the corruption, they too are corrupt. So you're putting cat to watch milk. You're putting cats for watch milk. And the thing is that many of them who you put to conduct the investigation, they can empathize. Note the word. They can empathize. They can show empathy to the culprits. You know why? Because they have been there and they have done that, so they can empathize. They might have been given a chance, so they are inclined to give others a chance. It's not going to solve that way. It is not going to solve, the corruption is not going to be solved that way. You got to start sending people to jail. You got to do like certain countries. Look, China, recently within the past month, a government minister collect money, he's sentenced to death. He's sentenced to death. And of course, all the assets will be forfeited and all that. If they really wanted that, well, if you talk about asset forfeiture and you go to enough of them ministers and enough of them government officials, all the assets you get taken away. You are the man in charge, the CEO of the housing. $945,000 property in the States he bought. Wonder what happened to the matter. But then he retired or he resigned abruptly. Graves, I think his name was. What happened to it? How can a public servant in that space of time acquire assets to purchase a property for almost $1 million US? How can he? This corruption, at least it requires a proper investigation. And I say this, despite the fact that they might try to shut it down, the fact that the US involved, as we have seen with this Mohammed case, watch out. Watch out. Let me bring in Mr. Conway, and then we can move on. Watch out. See, corruption at the airport, of all places, airport, where people, and you know, the thing about corruption at the airport, when a person is leaving and they get shaken down, it's not easy to establish a case because they're gone. Well, now, you know, you get virtual and all them to do it gone. So let me see how they can handle it.
Yeah, you know, and the thing, they used to say there's no corruption, bring on the evidence. And now all you're hearing is that they're investigating. I believe the words of Bill Clinton when I spoke about it before, when Timothy McVeigh bombed the Oklahoma City State Building, Bill Clinton, the president, said the action we're going to take will be swift, will be certain, will be appropriate. I love those three words. And very shortly, in labor time, they get Timothy McVeigh. They were certain what charge to give him. And the punishment was death by lethal injection. My thing is that when you get corruption, it must be swift. It must be certain. It must be appropriate. Don't tell me OPR investigating. And as you hinted to, Paul, is that they're trying maybe to tarnish the image of that immigration department that is doing a excellent work under Senior Superintendent Telford. A very good department, excellent work. Things happening, and then they're putting up the photograph of the immigration people to give the impression that it's immigration people committing the offense when it's the airline officials. That they need to be swift, certain, and appropriate. Don't tell me OPR investigating, and don't tell me that the rank is under close arrest. Close arrest is when you are dealing with disciplinary matters under the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 17:01. I think Section 10 tell you about person placed under close arrest. But any other thing is arrest. Full stop. Not close arrest. Don't dress it up. Any other thing, as long as you're dealing with criminally, it is arrest. But I'm misusing the word, the term close arrest, close arrest, close arrest, let me repeat myself, is in relation to disciplinary matter under the Police Discipline Act, Chapter 17:01, I think Section 10. Any other thing, if you're dealing with it criminally, is arrest, full stop. And then we need to hear the nature of investigation and what action is taken while they're this body investigating and it done there. No way. I'm repeating myself, and my someone else, it must be swift, it must be certain, and it must be appropriate.
My brother, right? You're so correct, right? Because if they're really interested in stamping out the corruption, you got to deal with it. You got to first admit that it is there, which they are reluctantly doing now. And when they get instances or evidence, I used to tell them, you know, when and look, again, me, I'm bigging up myself, but you got many who worked with me and can tell you, I used to make it plain. If you're corrupt and you're caught, you're going to be dealt with condignly. Don't come and believe that this commander, as I was then, done sorry for you. No. I ain't dealing with corruption. I used to tell you, let me admit it. I used to tell you, go up on the road and you arrest a man and they claim that you might have done it incorrectly and all them type of thing. Maybe you're going to come in with some consideration. Maybe. But when you go out there and you're corrupt, you're demanding money from people, I have no sympathy with those persons. I have sent policemen to jail over corrupt activity. Because many of them to be dismissed over corruption, right? Cause them to be dismissed. I am dealing with that. And until you have people, and to deal with it that way, you got to be clean yourself. Because you can't be corrupt and all them little by know that you're corrupt, you're taking money from businessman for wedding and all them type of things. So who respects you? Who respects you? We talk about corruption is just out here. Because, you know, they're disciplined. They think of the police force, they're disciplined, most of them. So you come as a commissioner and as a commander, and you're attempting to read the right up. We're not going to tolerate corruption and so on. And men saying to themselves, and they're whispering to others, what are you talking about? He's just as corrupt or more corrupt than anybody else. He come to talk about corruption. But you don't all he ask. That's what they're saying to themselves. As I said, the men going to tell the person to the face because of the discipline. The frightened they might lose their job and all them. But they're saying this, when they're done, they meet at the bar or they meet somewhere. What's the one talking about corruption? Who can be more corrupt than he? That is what they're saying. That is what they are going to say. Now let me move on. Somebody asked a question. I think it was Wednesday. Again, you know, the lack of training in the police force is very glaring. Person said to me, one of the students reached out and said that someone was driving with a provisional license and the police stopped the person and told them that they're not allowed to drive after 6 p.m. with a provisional license. So they asked me if they saw. So I said, well, I can't recall that. So I did a little research. Section 26 of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act says, it talks about provisional license. And the provisional license allows you to drive. Once you pass the theory, it allows you to drive to get practice to do the practical examination. And the law 26 basically gives some broad guidelines. It talks about the conditions. You have to comply with the conditions as outlined by the licensing officer. But the conditions are not stated, right? But they will tell you part of those conditions. If you around, you know, you're supposed to get 2 red L, one to the front, one to the back of the vehicle you're driving. Another condition, you have to have a driver with 2 years experience. Well, this is always a problem. 2 years experience, or a person, more likely, a person who has had a driver's license for at least 2 years to be with you when you are driving. Provisional driver can't drive alone. The person has to be there with you. But I don't know that there's any restriction as to the timing, right? I don't know, because if you're telling a provisional driver that he can't drive with a provisional license after 6 o'clock, what happened to the night driving? Night driving is an important component of training. And so something got to be wrong. Something is wrong. But the people have to be able, the policemen themselves have to be trained so they know what the correct information is. The person asked me, because I said that people tell them provisional driver can't drive after 6 o'clock in the evening. And they asked me to clarify. So I did the thing, and as I've said, the law makes some broad. I said the licensing officer can impose conditions under which the provisional driver can operate. And then they tell you that if you violate those conditions, you are breaking the law. And I know one of the conditions, one of the major conditions, is that you have to have a driver. They said 2 years experience, but you can get a license. You can get it in Guyana now. You could get a drive license for 5 years, and they get no year driving experience. Because people get license, can't even drive. That is a fact, right? So basically, what they mean, the interpretation there, is that you have to have had a license for at least 2 years, and they are assuming that if you get a license for 2 years, at least you get some experience so you can guide. Those are the two main conditions that I can remember. Perhaps there are more, but I can't remember. I know the red L, and the driver wants someone who has a valid driver's license to be with the provisional driver. So I hope that the student who asked the question is listening, and that would have clarified it. But again, these are the things that should be put out there for the public to understand, right? The public to understand, right? Somebody saying, right. And Yeah, well, right. They said the person actually confirming what I'm said. The two red L and the person with 2 years to be there with you. See?
Yeah, and I remember, 83 no ratio. I remember he charged a guy failing to exhibit red L. And I was alarmed myself. I was a little concerned. So yeah, and then he jumped in the lounge and me failing to exhibit red L. Those things that you say, I concur with you, Paul, in terms of it. But then again, when we look on the other side of it now, the dealers plate they on weekends, during the night, and even trucks and all transporting stone and sand and thing get the dealers plate on them too. So they need to look at that one too.
Yeah, but dealer's plate really is as it suggests, is to moving the vehicle from off the wharf to the dealer's place of storage and to take it to get it registered and so on. Enough for you to be driving around, and it is restricted to office hours. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that the law has been amended because it did not allow you. Remember back in the day, your offices were open on Saturdays in the mornings, and therefore you were allowed to drive with the dealer's plate in the mornings, but not in the afternoon when offices were closed, because the intention was for you to use the dealer's plate really to take the vehicle to do business. But dealer's plate is being abused in this country. People get dealer's plate forever and ever, and then they get anything as dealer's plate, cardboard, anything, no standardization. And again, we say if you want to talk about discipline, all of those things you need to look at. Perhaps some of those things are the easier ones to address, less controversial. But if you can't address, how are you going to address the more serious ones? How are you going to start addressing the most serious one, and which is cultural, like the bad app by driving up? Yes, so there's a culture that it's not easy to change a culture, not easy. Now the other, well, let me tell you all, we understand today, elections have consequences. So today they had elections for the regional chairman and vice chairman and so on. I hear a big story there now, man. I hear a big story going on in Linden and on the East Coast and all this everything. Big story. I hear all of a sudden they decide that the vote must be by secret ballot. By secret ballot. And I read something just now here on Region 4 where they say the PVP man, first time PVP get the chairmanship of Region 4. But when they count the votes, they say the man got, I can't remember the exact number, but they had 7 blank ballots. Some people just put in the thing there, they have vote. 7 other side have vote. And people say, Jackie Opel came to play. Jackie Opel. You know how much money passed for vote for this body and vote for the body. Elections have consequences. Elections have consequences, so we're going to see what is going on. And I saw them talking about the person in Region 4, the Gadrach fellow. And I remember some years ago, not so long, they had something on the East Coast, and the chairman then, Siram, wanted to invite somebody from the opposition to speak, and the man snatched the video. What is this REO, the regional executive officer, something Gadrach, what their minister body, I think it is. Snatched the thing, the man had invited the same Siram fellow, Daniel Siram, was the regional chairman for Region 4, right? Who then decided that he gone with PVP. The PVP man, REO, snatched the phone from Yan when he wanted to invite, I think, Cathy Hughes or somebody from the opposition to speak. So we have that. So CC, elections have consequences. They're voting today. You're going to hear the thing later. I understand that some of the elections have been completed. Your take?
Yeah, not only elections, they say lying get consequences too. So we can see what really going to transpire, especially in Region 4 and Region 10 and some other areas there. Let's see what they think. But at least they're making a start, unlike what's supposed to happen in Parliament.
Right. Let me look. This matter that I'm gonna come to, I'm still trying to put my head around it. It's in today's Stabrook News. I am still trying to grapple. I am hoping that what is reported here is inaccurate. I am hoping. And I'm talking about an headline in today's Stabrook News which says sex assault charge against photographer struck out after financial settlement. I am still trying to put my head around this. Sexual assault charge against photographer struck out after financial settlement. This I am hoping that the report here is inaccurate. Hear what the report says. Y'all listen carefully. Students, listen carefully. Share the live. Share the live. Listen carefully. It says, former Guyana Chronicle photographer Vishwanath Narayan was yesterday freed after the Georgetown Magistrates Court struck out a sexual assault charge against him following a financial settlement between the parties. Narayan, who had earlier been found guilty on one count of sexual assault, was expected to be sentenced yesterday. However, during the proceedings, which magistrate, they call the magistrate name, I ain't gonna call the magistrate name, the parties reached an agreement in which the victim accepted 1.1 million in compensation. Following deliberations between the attorneys and the prosecution, the court was informed that the matter had been resolved, and as a result, it was struck out. Narayan appeared via Zoom from prison, while his family, present in court, handed over the compensation to the victim. He was initially charged with 2 counts of sexual assault stemming from incidents alleged to have occurred in December 2023. Narayan pleaded not guilty to both charges when the matter was first heard in chambers before the magistrate. In a statement dated 30th of December 2023, the Guyana National Newspaper Limited, GNNL, publisher of the Guyana Chronicle, said it was, quote, profoundly concerned, end of quote, about reports that a female staff member had accused a male employee of sexual assault. The company stated that the alleged incident reportedly took place on December the 22nd and 27th, 2023, and were brought to management attention on December the 29th, after a police report was filed at the Albert Town Police Station. GNNL further emphasized its commitment to maintaining a safe and respectful workplace for all employees. Now, I say I believe that something must be wrong in the system. I still can't believe that this report is accurate. And why? According to what it's saying, this man was a photographer at GGNL. An allegation was made against him. Allegation made against me too. Allegation against him. He was charged. He pleaded not guilty. There was a trial. He was found guilty. I remember reading it about 2 weeks ago. He was found guilty, and after finding him guilty, he was remanded to prison to sentence. His lawyers did make strenuous appeal for him to be released on bail, but the magistrate decided, now that you're convicted, remanded him to prison, and saying that he has to return to court on the 9th, which was yesterday, for sentence. Now tell me, in Christ's name, I have been to police college and think them they when teach them thing that. How can a matter be settled after the person has been found guilty and it's time for sentence? I would want the legal people to explain that. How can a settlement be made in any matter after the person has been found guilty? Yes, you can have settlement. Yes, you can have settlement, but the settlement has to be done at some early stage. And but look, when I read this thing, I have to read it over and over. I said, no, some mistake made. I'm still believing that some mistake is made here, that this man who was found guilty and remanded to prison pending sentence, when it was time for sentence tomorrow, they're telling the magistrate now they decide that they're compensating the victim at that stage, sentencing time, compensating the victim. And more worrying, they say, following deliberations between the attorneys and the prosecution, the court was informed that the matter had been resolved, and as a result, it was struck out. It was struck out. I am baffled. I can't understand that. So the man found guilty, and the matter struck out. What does that mean? I have got to read some more, maybe, as I said, when I read this article this morning, I said something wrong. Yes, Carl, Ghana cannot be a real place. And that is why people comment about the system and all of that. Because again, I make the point, I'm confused. I'm confused. Yes, you could have settled, but there's a stage where the settlement, how are you settling after a trial and after the accused person was found guilty and just remanded for sentencing? Yeah, Leon, this is what they taught us. Carl Leon is saying here, no settlement could be made after defendant is found guilty, right? The prosecution has no say. It's in the hands of the magistrate. All that you have for sentencing, as I know, are not frequently in Guyana, but you might have an impact statement, a victim impact. In other words, the victim is allowed, in some cases, to go into the court and to say how this thing has affected them. The victim is allowed to go, that's after the person has been found guilty. So the magistrate now or the judge will take that victim impact statement into consideration in determining sentence. But I really can't understand. Again, I say, in all fairness to Stabrook News or over reporting, I am hoping that they got it wrong. There's a mistake somewhere. Because as I know it, that you cannot talk about settlement after the person has been found guilty. You can't talk about settlement then. In some cases, depending on the nature of the charge, the magistrate might talk about restitution. But this one baffles, this one has baffled me. It continues to baffle me that a matter can be settled after the person has been found guilty. And more than that, what I'm saying, as a result of the settlement, let me read this part back, because this is a worrying part too. Following deliberations between the attorneys and the prosecution, the court was informed that the matter had been resolved. As a result, it was struck out. How is that possible? How is that possible? I worry y'all asking me things that I asking the same question. I don't have any answer, but maybe Mr. Conway, who is much wiser and more experienced, might have an explanation. Cece, what is your explanation to this?
Well, in relation to the facts there, where the man they went to trial and he was found guilty, remanded for sentencing, and then you hear they paid compensation and the matter has been struck out. They can't strike out anything there. It's there. But remember years ago when I was a constable for some minor offenses, I think it's under the Summary Jurisdiction Procedure Act. I have to research it. I can't remember what section 45 or thereabout, where you might be found guilty for those minor offenses and no conviction is recorded. I have to research. I think it's Summary Jurisdiction Procedure Act. I remember some lawyer used to say, Your Worship, please give him a section, I can't remember the exact section, and that used to be. But this is a sexual offense, very serious offense. I know if you charge under the sexual offenses, this very serious offense. And it boggles the mind to know that you found guilty, the magistrate remanded you, come for sentence, and then you hear you pay $1.1 million and the matter been struck. Well, they can't strike it out. Perhaps they reported and use the correct language there. I don't know, but I know that we used to have where for certain very minor offenses you're found guilty, but no conviction is recorded. I have to resort to that. Maybe when we come back on Monday, I might be able to tell you something more about that. But not those sexual offenses. And you can't find guilty and then you strike it out. No way. It didn't sound right at all. Something is wrong. Maybe they reported in report properly.
That's what I'm saying. Something is definitely wrong, and I know the matter. I know section, I know of the section you're talking about, is yes, it's something, summary jurisdiction procedure. Let me tell you a story. You talk about now, remember. When I was at West Demerara, I charged a person in the legal fraternity for dangerous driving or something. The person drove dangerously right by the Vidnub Junction. And when the matter came up before the magistrate, right, that section was applied. That very section where no conviction was recorded or anything like that, and the matter thing there. Yeah, so there is such a section that given, I think it says that if the matter is of a trivial nature, the magistrate can decide sometimes reprimand, because not R&D, it's just reprimand. Because R&D is a conviction, and reprimand, and decide that under this section, I think it's the summary jurisdiction procedure, that no conviction or no record will be made. Something, yes, so you're perfectly correct in terms of that. But I have got to seek guidance from legal people. I'm not a legal person. But this, what is reported here, is the first time I ever encounter something like that in all my years, where a person is convicted. And after being convicted, then we hear settlement. And more baffling is that the matter is struck out. I don't know what I mean. And CCC, like you, I hope that the reporter who reported the matter perhaps can understand what actually transpired. And the report is not an accurate report. And therefore, I would hope that the people in the court, because the magistrate name is mentioned, I hope that they would seek to clarify this thing. Because this thing smells so Evan, something is wrong. Something is definitely wrong, right? So I don't know, right? I don't know. But let me move on. Coming back to the provisional driver's license thing, I think I have some other information which I should have given to you. I say in Ghana, provisional driver is a temporary document. A provisional driver's license is a temporary document for those who have passed the theoretical driver's examination but are yet not fully qualified. To get one, you must submit an application form, proof of passing the theory test, 2 passport photographs, a copy of your ID, and pay 1,500 processing fee to the Guyana Revenue Authority. A provisional license is valid for 3 months and can be renewed for 3 times. That is one of the conditions too. It's not in law, but the law says, Section 26 of the Motor Vehicle Road Traffic Act, says the licensing officer can impose such conditions that you, the person, are required to follow. And therefore, if they say it can only be renewed for 3 times, after then, they expect that by then you'll get your proper license. 1 renewal, 2 renewal, 3 renewal, and then that's it. I think it lasts for 3 months. It's 3 months, yes. So for a total of 9 months consecutive, I would think, right? And then they say you got to get a copy of the original pass letter from the traffic chief of the Guyana Police Force, 2 passport size photograph, a copy of a valid form of identification, ID or passport, processing fee of $1,500. And then they say, what do you do after your provisional license? You use a provisional license for your practical driving lessons. The provisional license is not a full license and does not qualify you to drive independently. Does not qualify you to drive independently. You will need to pass a practical driving examination to be issued with a full license. The term of validity and renewal, the provisional license is valid for 3 months and can be renewed for a maximum of 3 times. That is what I found. So again, it's just to make sure that the information is passed on there. Because if you complain to me that the police said that you can't drive after 6 o'clock in the afternoon, I know that you got to do night driving. I'm not sure up to what time, but I would think that 6 o'clock is an unreasonable time. Because how do you drive? How do you practice to drive during the hours of darkness? That's part of the training. That's part of the practice. Now, let me move on. We got a lot to talk about. I want to talk about this issue. Let me put this one forward because we have been delaying this for some program now. And this is the a few weeks ago. Let me pull up my notes, man. I don't want to miss anything. Let me pull up the notes. A few weeks ago, um, it was 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks now. I wrote a letter which was published in Kaicho News and Starbuck News, where I said that given the carnage on the road, the Linden Suzac Highway in particular, that the police should seek to establish a highway safety patrol for the Linden Suzac Highway. I didn't stop there. I suggested that they should have vehicles, they have our location, should have vehicles, adequate number of vehicles, adequate number of ranks, adequate number of other resources, including warning signs, cones, and all this stuff. I did that. I went further to say or to suggest how they should work. They crisscross, and I stated that one of the main objectives is to identify potential dangers, such as broken down vehicles, water on the road, sand on the road. And when you identify it, you must have signs, warning signs to warn drivers of the dangers, especially when it comes to the darkness, right? The traffic chief, Assistant Commissioner Mahendra Singh, is reported in Kaicho News of October the 2nd, right? He says, no, I'll get the wrong thing. Oh, yes, it's the same thing. It's the right thing. He said, the article says, in light of the recent surge of fatal accidents along the rehabilitating Linden Suzac Highway, Traffic Chief Mahendra Singh stressed that the police have already implemented all possible measures to maintain safety. He emphasized the ultimate responsibility lies with drivers of vehicles, owners who must exercise caution and diligence when using the roadway. His comments came as a response to retired Assistant Commissioner Paul Slow and former chairman of the Police Service Commission, who recently described the highway as a death trap and that requires urgent attention. In a letter published Monday, Slow proposed the creation of a specialized highway safety unit equipped with vehicles, safety gears, and electronic warning systems operating around the clock to address hazards such as broken down vehicles, erosion, and waterlogged surfaces. They quote me, the main purpose of the highway patrol must be to identify potential dangers, example, broken down vehicles, erosion, loose surface, waterlogged road, surface, etc., and ensure that adequate warning signs are put in place at a reasonable distance from the potential danger. I am sure that this measure, if immediately implemented, can have a significant impact on the safety of this important artery. However, in an interview with Kaicho News, Singh explained that many of the suggested measures are already in place, particularly constant patrolling. He noted that during the rehabilitation of the Suzac Linden Highway, the police implemented a more structured highway patrol system with traffic-focused operations from each division. Quote, previously there was only a checkpoint where a vehicle simply passed through a barrier. Now there's a fixed establishment with a building, mobile patrols by vehicles, and active engagement by ranks, Singh said. He further explained that another measure, the highway patrol base, complements the system. He stated that since the highway served as a vital link between Region 4 East Bank and Region 10 Linden, the two divisions now work in coordination to strengthen traffic management and enhance preventative road safety. Let me stop there. Right? Now, you have accidents on the highway. That is indisputable. The evidence is there. Fatal accidents. We have seen that in many of the cases on the highway is as a result of broken down trucks. The last one you had where those persons died, the Chinese national or Chinese from Letem, truck broke down. The man had a problem, the driver, he broke down the truck was dead. Obviously, without any warning, signs and so on. And the people drove straight into it. Two of them died. One was serious in hospital. And this assistant commissioner in charge of traffic, he's saying here what he's saying. He's saying that the police have already implemented all possible measures. Can you imagine that? That the traffic chief and assistant commissioner of police is saying when it comes to the Linden Suicide Highway and a death trap, as I call it, he's saying that the police have already implemented all possible methods, measures to maintain safety. All possible measures to maintain safety. That's what he said they already implement. Now, if you implement all possible measures to maintain safety, tell me how you still get all this carnage on that artery. Because now in one case, you had a case where a child got killed. Some people coming from Kokwani or somewhere drove into, again, some truck broke down and people drove into it. And this man saying that they have implemented all possible measures. All possible measures. You know what happened there? You know what happened there, students? It's about the messenger. It's slow said. And so therefore, if slow said, we must ignore it. It's not about the message. Because if you read the comments on the articles that were published following my letter, a lot of people say, well, it's a sensible thing to do. The man said they already get patrols. Are the patrols equipped in the manner that I recommended? Are they geared? Are they equipped to identify dangers and to make sure that proper signs are there so that drivers are alerted to the danger when? I say no. And yet still the assistant commissioner in charge of traffic, the traffic chief, telling you that the Ghana police force have implemented all possible measures. Imagine that. All possible measures they implement, and yet still people died on the highway. So what happened? And then they're blaming the people. Let me understand this thing clearly. Drivers are at fault in a lot of cases. In a lot of the accidents that we have, they don't do any proper investigation to determine if it's engineering problem and all that. The man made a statement there too. When we can bring in CC, I can find, I made some notes about this same thing because I had promised to address it some time ago, but a lot of things intervened and I didn't get to address it. CC, let me bring you in now while I pull up my notes on this thing. Go ahead.
That traffic chief is very, very negative. He doesn't listen to criticism. And I'm talking about constructive criticism, well-founded criticism. He doesn't listen to it with a willingness to change. And I remember reading a book, Power and Corruption in the NYPD. And part of a code is the performance of any organization that does not listen to well-founded criticism with a willingness to change will be prosaic. Telling you going to be dull, you're going to be unimaginative, you're going to be poorly thing. That you got to listen to well-founded criticism with a willingness to change. But you're not going to change because they have all possible methods. All possible methods. So we in guys, we say, we put all possible methods, so we throw back. Whatever will be because we have gotten all possible methods in place. Now, as we said over and over again, that this traffic situation, the solution has got to be data driven. You got to examine the data. I said when we were doing the citizen security program, they have ISIS, Integrated Crime Information System, where they employ persons, data entry clerk, to submit reports, incidents that happen to a central base, was the Ministry of Home Affairs, and they employ what they call policy analysts to analyze those data, and then Clementor used to give you medicinally, that. So the traffic has got to do the same thing. That the information has got to come perhaps at traffic headquarters where we have analysts, person would analyze it and ask, is this a trend? Is this a pattern? Is this a hot spot? You analyze the situation, and then you utilize your human and other resources to deal with the situation. And in terms of dealing with your human resources, you got to get what you call job rotation. You got to get job enlargement. That's like what happened in region number 6. I think there's a man who they call the cage with his issue permits and other things there, and he's an inspector. That is not a place for an inspector, but it's sweetness along there. You know, not the inspector. The inspector should go out on the road, come out from the cage, put somebody else there, job rotation, job enlargement. And we also talk job enrichment. Me talking about them collecting money, collecting bribe. Enrichment mean enrichment with the knowledge of the traffic. And then the people at the top, including the traffic chief, has got to use your technical knowledge. Well, I know if you get any technical knowledge in traffic, you got to use your human skills, or we call people skills, and your conceptual skills. Your technical, your human, and your conceptual skills to deal with the situation. You got to do brain. You got to do brain work, and don't be negative and say we do everything and we can't do nothing anymore. Years ago, the technical skill used to be the most important. Now and in the future, your human skill, how you deal with people, how you deal with your workers, how you deal with your with with the public, how you deal with your superiors, your peers, your subordinates, and other people. That is very, very important if you want to solve the problem. And there are some management modules, I wish to leave two for the traffic chief. I think I'd mentioned them before. And one is the British one that I learned when I went to Grenada. I attended a course in Grenada where the British had sponsored the course. Instead of us going to England, they take the senior police officers and they sent us to Grenada, where the instructors they came down from England, and I think they rented a whole hotel called No Problem Hotel, and we were there for 8 weeks. And the module they use, they call it SARA, SARA, or some it's a zero, where you scan the environment, both the local and the other external environment. You analyze the situation, you respond, and then you do an assessment. Scan, analyze, respond, assessment. And the British get one that I learned from the FBI. They call it ADDIE, ADDIE. You analyze, you design your program, you develop it, you put on flesh on it, you implement and you evaluate. And a lot of time we do things and we don't evaluate. Evaluation is critical, and you don't wait till the end of it to evaluate. As you go along the line, you evaluate. So saying you can look at the sorrow and you can look at the addy, but you can't sit down there and blame the drivers and blame everybody. It's not going to work. And you must listen to well-founded criticism with a willingness to change, or its performance would be as it is, prosaic, dull, unimaginative. And listen, because it's past so, or because can we make the thing there, you're not going to take any action. And listen to the well-founded criticism with a willingness to change, and are saying the solution or part of the solution to the traffic. And it's not only that, is that you need to ensure that it is data driven. Analyze the bloody data. The data is there. Is this a trend? Is this a pattern? Is this a hot spot? Look at it. I could always remember and permit me, let me say this a little bit. When I was commando at B Division, Borbies, West Coast, East Borbies quarantine. And I discovered that I used to get a lot of accidents between the Rosignol Stelling and Bath Settlement when I checked the stats. And I say, hey, no. This can't work. And I realized that they used to get accidents on Fridays and Saturdays. So I passed instructions, and commander got to get involved in traffic. And I passed instructions, hey, Friday and Saturday, I want plenty traffic ranks on the job. give them have duty during the week. But Friday and Saturday they must be there. And we must focus between Rosignol, Stelling, and Bar Settlement. And I discover what is happening is that a lot of speeding, they're hustling for go and catch the ferry. And then when the people come off the ferry, they're hustling to reach Georgetown. So a lot of speeding. So I say, hey, I want heavy focus on that particular stretch of roadway. And almost overnight, very few, if any, accident happening there. So I'm saying, analyze the figures, check the figures, analyze the stats, and respond. It got to be data driven, and listen to well-founded criticism with a willingness to change.
Well said, my brother. Well said. But you know, and let me say this. Let me say this. The letter that I wrote, I don't know, nobody can really say it was a criticism. I didn't criticize. I wrote, I identified what I believe is part of the problem, and I made recommendations as to how this thing should be dealt with. Because remember my background, I spent two terms as a traffic chief, and many of the things that they have until now, I designed, like the law and driver system, which they corrupted, right? So I wasn't a traffic chief who sat there and did nothing. People who know, but I used to be on the road, personally on the road, dealing with traffic. And I went there to make sure that I was abreast. I kept abreast with what was going on. Just sitting down in the office all day, and then I jump on social media and talk a lot of chit answer. But let me say this. The fact that the traffic chief, Mahendra Singh, assistant commissioner, can make a statement to say that they have already implemented all possible measures to maintain safety tells me that he's not suited for the office. He's not suited for that office. You telling the public, people dying on the road, and let me confine it to the Linden Suzaik Highway. And then you saying that you have implemented all possible measures to maintain safety and people still dying? Have you put in the measures that I recommended, I suggested? As I told them at the time, I don't want no credit for it. I don't want any credit. Put it there and say it's you, I did. Put it and say it's you, I did. And I am sure, again, if you analyze what has taken place on the Linden Suzaik Highway, as somebody said, truck broke down with lock on them, truck broke down with some mechanical problem, it break down. Sometimes it break down that the driver can't do nothing in terms of moving it off the road. And therefore, the next sensible thing to do is to make sure that signs are put, proper signs are put in place to alert vehicles that, look, they got this danger ahead. And I'm sure that will prevent, you believe them people who drive straight into them car one, they're suicidal? You think they're suicidal? They want to commit suicide, so they just drive. They see the danger and drive? No, they don't see the danger. And therefore, if you recognize, as I do, that the reason they get into the accident is because they have not seen the danger, then the sensible thing to do is to make sure that the danger can be identified. That is so simple and straightforward. That is so simple and straightforward. The man said we do all that we got to do. And there's some other nonsense that he said. He goes on to say, while acknowledging the rise in fatal accident along the Linden Suzaik Highway, Singh stressed that responsibility also lies with drivers. Quote, that take away no grievance, I know you, that take away no grievance that there are accidents, but when it comes down to responsibility, it is not the police issue alone. The Suzaik Linden Highway is still undergoing transformation as part of the rehabilitation work. We issue traffic advisory weekly, and there are constant lectures delivered to drivers across Region 10 and East Bank. We keep preaching to them, remind them, urging them, end of quote. Yes, chauvinists. Now you're doing all of that, and the people are still dying. Does it not tell you that you have to do more? Or if you can't do the work, leave. They remove the man, you replace a man named Stevens. On account of again, there were too many fatal accidents. that they remove Stevens. I feel I don't have the figures. I do not have the figures, but I would hazard a guess that the fatal accidents have continued or have gotten worse since you are there as traffic chief. And what are you doing? What are you doing? You give up. You have done all that you can do. You're doing lecture. What lecture? You pull a couple of people on the roadside or someplace and somebody stand up on them on the road and talk to them. That is lecture. That is what you refer to as lecture. And that is what they publish often. You see, we display pictures here from time to time. They're going to school, some kindergarten children they're talking to. Then you get a big release. They conducted lectures with school children. They pull a couple of drivers on the side of the road and they talk to them something. That is lecture to the drivers. They get weekly, what you said, they get weekly, let me read, man. I want to be Scotty. We issue traffic advisories weekly. We issue traffic advisory weekly, and there are constant lectures delivered to drivers across Region 10 and the East Bank. We keep preaching to them, reminding them, urging them. They might sound frustrated, that's why they cuss up and so on. He should ask to be removed from that position. You might get an improvement. Then he goes on, saying also highlighted the problem of immobile vehicles left on the highway. Air this, Dana, air this. Sling also highlighted the problem of immobile vehicles left on the highway. Quote, when immobile vehicles are seen on the highway, they are not there by chance. It is the responsibility of the driver to call 911 and report it to the police. It's free. Once notified, we take into account that the driver may not have cones or reflectors available. We then respond immediately. We take photographs, place cones, and issue traffic advisory. This alerts road users and prevent further dangers. You heard nonsense what this man say? In other words, he is rebutting or he is not, you don't want to hear the suggestion that I made. So he said we already do. And people who travel in the highway know that what he's saying is lie. People traveling know that a lie. That they, what he say, he telling people the immobile vehicles, yes, the vehicles are immobile. And you're saying that when the mobile vehicles are seen on the highway, they are not there by chance. What do you mean by that? It is a responsibility of the driver to call 911 and report it to the police. Body by all I'm telling you, the police should get a responsibility. Because if you're traveling in the manner that was recommended, you're going to see the danger. And you're going to make sure that systems are put there to identify the danger. This alert road user to further danger. This is what the traffic chief saying. Then he said, sing on also on the scores, poor vehicle maintenance, speeding, and driver fatigue as persistent challenges. When they, he said, quote, when they are not so capable, they feel tired. Let me read about, please. When they are not so capable, they feel tired. You to take time off. You can proceed in the same, you can't proceed in the same manner. We have experienced this in the past. Persons have crashed because they are tired. What evidence you have, Mr. Singh, Assistant Commissioner, Traffic Chief, that tiredness causing these crashes? What evidence you have? Them dead man tell you that they're tired? Are you suggesting that them dead men who crash and dead come and tell you that by the minute tired? Them zombie come and tell you that? Again, this renders this man unqualified for this position to say this type of nonsense to the guy in his public. You come, what evidence? You don't even have evidence to show, because that is not done. That when the alcohol level they don't do that, because I don't know that when there's a crash and the person dies, if the driver they do any test to determine whether the driver who is deceased was under the influence at the time. They don't do that. If you're alive, they're gonna do the check and all this everything. So what evidence you have? Just come and just blabbling and talking a lot of crap. And then he goes on finally to say the ongoing 200 million the story goes on to say The ongoing 200 million rehabilitation of the 73-kilometer highway, funded through a partnership between the government of Guyana and the Islamic Bank Development Bank, includes reconstruction, new bridges, culverts, and improved standards. The contract was signed in 2023. Yet since work commenced in 2024, fatal crashes have spiked with multiple deaths, with multiple deadly accidents recorded throughout 2024 and 2025. That is what the article is saying. Then the article goes on to highlight several of the more serious accidents. I'm going to read all of that because I think the point is made. So they said this highway is supposed to take 2 years to construct. They talk about, even people have said to me that they have identified a lot of problems, dangers. First of all, they get people working there. No, they don't have adequate signs. The highway, if I remember correctly, the speed limit is 100 kilometers. That's the highway. Now, there's no sign, and that's the information I got, to tell you, well, there's a work zone ahead. You must reduce the sign to whatever, whether it's 80 or whether it's 60 or 70. They don't have that. And then a person said to me, part of the problem is that they have resurfaced part of the road, then mark it, so when the moon and then it shine, it dazzles your eyes. It says further, you're going to be driving on a smooth surface, and then suddenly, without any warning, you encounter a gravel part. And when the vehicle jump from the smooth to the gravel, you can lose control. And then sometime after you jump back onto the smooth. Those are things that should be identified and clearly marked. Clearly marked. But no, this traffic chief they do all that they are supposed to do. And I'm saying it again, that this is a national emergency. Thankfully, for this week, I can't recall any fatal accidents or incident for this week. Let me hope and pray that it continues like that, because we know what has happened on weekends. Let's hope and let's pray that it continues like that, and you don't have any fatal accident. Right? And then what we have? We have one agile. I got to bring in CC just now. One agile talking about overloaded trucks. Because you know they say now they're gonna get the weight of the vehicle. No, there can be no doubt that these unscrupulous people loading them vehicle and driving on the road, damaging the road. There's no doubt about that. But what struck me is that the minister, Jill, I never can remember the exact portfolio, right? Because, you know, in the previous government, it was, I think, public infrastructure, and then same back to works and transport, whatever it is. He says that they're going to acquire 100 clamps. And the plan is they're going to clamp these trucks that are overweight. They're going to clamp them. They're going to have staging area that clamp them. And that another question shows that these people aren't thinking this through. So what happened? You clamp this truck, and they say, according to the article, I should have had the day to read it, that the vehicle is moving until they take off the excess load and all these type of things. But right away, we see a lot of issues. Where are you going to establish? We don't have weigh stations in on the roadway and the highways in Guyana. And if you're going to do anything, you have to have weigh stations, as happened in North America and elsewhere, where vehicles have to pass through the weigh station, where they are weighed to make sure that they are complying with the weight for that category. Well, most of them is them big container vehicles. Man. But I can see them clamping vehicle on them highway and causing more problem, because if you clamp them there and you don't get it off the road and you don't get proper signs, because things say you do everything that you can do, you're putting more dangers on the roadway. Right? So I hope that they think these things through. It's a lot of, you know, they got a lot of brain waves, and they come and they make statement. When you analyze the nonsense that they're talking, then you recall, then you realize that these people and get the intellectual capacity to think these things through and come up with something sensible. You get overloaded trucks. I agree that overloaded trucks are damaging the roads, the new bridge and all them everything that can damage the bridge. And you need to take measures to ensure that they end overloaded. They talk about how much ton per axle and all of these type of things. But then to say that the solution to that is clamping these vehicles, where are you going to clamp them? We don't have weigh stations in Guyana. None of the places have weigh stations. In the States, along the highway, you have a weigh station. So you pull off, you go into the weigh station. Place for you to park off the road. You have that in Guyana, Mr. Edgel? So how you going to get, tell us how this clamping can work. And then you're going to offload the excess load. Where it going? In the meanwhile, you identify that if you have roving weigh stations, as I think it is suggested, and you put it up someplace and you weigh the vehicle, and the vehicle is overloaded, you clamp on. Where you putting it, you leaving right on the road for cars obstruction? Do you have any place identified where they can come off the road, or you can do the weighing at particular places where they can park properly off the road, not presenting any danger, and you do what you got to do? This is not, Guyana is not a real place, you know. Guyana is not a real place. Let me bring in CC for talk about that. And CC, time catching up with me, man. Let me hear you on this weigh station and all of that.
Well, even before that, the traffic chief, the more I listen to him and the more I analyze his statement, the more I'm convinced that he's lacking technical, human, and conceptual skills. He know nothing but traffic, really. The human skills, we heard tips, we cussing up people and encouraging the traffic men to disobey instructions from commanders. Perhaps there is no synergy between himself and the commanders. And the clamping of vehicles, you clamp them, you leave them there, the problem continues. And then if you're going to discharge the excess, sometimes you get cement for discharge, you get sand for discharge, you get stone for discharge. Where are you going to put them? You know, the more we listen to the minister, and Paul is not in the morning, say 100 clamps. I listened to it 3 times. He said 1,000 clamps he gonna buy. 1,000 clamps he gonna get the police. You know, the thing is not really thought out properly. Just stand up and just talk nonsense, without no real brain work, without no real analytical work. And what they're doing, they're making it more confusing. And the more they talk, the more nonsense they're talking, and the more confusion is going to go on. They need to sit down properly and take proper advice. Take proper advice and make sure. How are you going to clamp people? Where clamp them? And then, where's the last time it was clamped to? I was trying to look for the law. Me, if I know law that give the police the permission to clamp. Maybe there is, but me, I haven't seen any. So, both the minister and the traffic chief, you know, the more I listen to them, the more I say they're in the wrong place, they're in the wrong office. And let the traffic chief know that traffic walk is on the road. Traffic walk is on the road. Traffic will not sit down in the office and jump on the television or jump on the social media and talk nonsense. Traffic walk is on the road. And there's where he must focus.
Well, let me say this, there's no law in Guyana allows for vehicles to be clamped. None. In the Motor Vehicle Road Traffic Act or no other act. And the Motor Vehicle Road Traffic Act, it talks about towing vehicles that are causing obstruction, not clamping. They got no such law. So maybe they're going to go to Parliament and they are going to get the law. They're going to enact law to allow for vehicles to be legally clamped under certain circumstances. But as we said, the traffic chief, and listen to his response again to the situation. Listen carefully.
Examine this post that was made by the president and look carefully at the spaces that you manage. Where some of us will stand up on the road and see these same things. And don't make the damn excuse for how it's an aggressive nature of the motorcyclists and you can't stop them. Tell me if it's your brother or your sister or your cousin, or they look like you and you don't want to do it, tell me that. But don't bluff me. At the end of the day, if we enforce the law fairly and we deal with it as a team, we get less of this. Instead of posting one policeman to address the issues that emanate from a motorcycle use, this deploy the whole fucking station district, all the traffic counts in the district, and address the particular issue, and you will get some form of change. And don't ask me why, of course, because I don't think anyone, if I were the traffic chief, I would accept these things kindly or commonly or peacefully. You would have been thinking about your seat. And similarly, as I'm thinking about my seat, I already get a cab. You gotta get a yacht together and go there and do what you gotta do. Officers and inspectors in the traffic department, you gotta roll for play. Don't hide in one office and think about body easily. Boys and them doing it in 4A, others doing it other places. We want to know 1 case and 2 cases no more. When you pull these people in and they don't have a helmet, they give the ticket, lodge the fucking motorbike until when they come the helmet, then give them back. Make it hard on them. And when you see the commanders telling you but they can't lodge your bike, you gotta decide certain thing or decide if you want to stay with it. Because honestly, when you see the heat command, I wouldn't be holding no strain or no brief for nobody. It come at a point now, you gotta stand up for yourself. The Harbor Bridge got a big role for playing this whole thing. And if they can't play it, you can play it.
Yes, Cecile, that's right. That's the response of the traffic chief. He talking to the ranks there. Tell them, he cussing, frustrated. He cared about his seat. His seat, that's all he looking at is his seat. Well, if the seat is too hot for you, move on, man. They always say, if you can't take the heat in the kitchen, don't go in the kitchen. Don't go in the kitchen. That statement alone that he made to Stavrotus about doing everything that already done possible, and his response there, where he cussing and all them type of thing, clearly shows that this man out of his depths. And I know, you know the thing as well. He and them, well, not all of them. I'm a careful driver. They're going to sit back there now for slow, jump some major road, or slow drive and go through some traffic light. We don't do them things. They must sit back now, That is how they operate. That is how they operate. They can't take constructive criticism. They can't take any proper suggestion. When I was a traffic chief and I went in there, I had no experience really in traffic. I got experience in management. And I then listened to my officers and listened to the people as to what should be done. And I implemented some of those measures with tremendous success. But if you get this attitude, telling them about effing this and effing that, how you think they're going to react to you? How you think they're going to react to you? Now, let me move on. We've done 2 hours already. I can't leave without talking briefly about the most pressing matter now. The indictment against Azuddin Mohammed, his father, and what is likely to happen. I'm reminding you all that we had elections on the 1st of September. The Win Party, We Invest in Nationhood, headed by Azuddin Mohammed, who was sanctioned by OFAC, won 16 seats. So they have the largest block of seats in the opposition. The president, in proclaiming parliament, he said, according to the Constitution, he can stick within the framework. And the Constitution allows him until, I think, November the 2nd, about 3 weeks to make the proclamation for the commencement of the new parliament, the 13th parliament. Now, I am of the view that all the delay and all this had to do with this indictment, the grand jury indictment against Azuddin Mohammed. Now that the indictment has been handed down, the next step in the process is an extradition request from the U.S. to the authorities in Guyana. I think it comes to Home Affairs, Foreign Affairs, and Home Affairs got something to do with it, the DPP got something to do. Then it has to engage the local courts. It has to engage the local court. It's a magistrate who has to make the order for him to be extradited. And then when the order is made, then it's the Home Affairs Minister who finally signs off on it. Yeah, what's the right? And I say this, I think this is the quandary they're in. If you convene Parliament now, Azuddin Mohammed turning up, he was elected to Parliament. he was elected to parliament. So he turns up. When they turn up, once the proclamation is made and they turn up, the first order of business, we understand, is for an election, for the process, well, for election of the speaker. The reach, of course, you'll get a lot of ceremonial stuff. President might choose to address and all of that. So you identify a speaker. When the speaker is identified, then you identify a deputy speaker. They said traditionally the deputy speaker comes from the opposition. And the last parliament, when they had expected it to come from the opposition, the main opposition, which was APNU, they said, nah, they give it to the Jaina party. They give it to Schumann. And then they had this rotating arrangement where Schumann handed over to Kisoon. And Kisoon was to hand over to somebody from Anab. And Kisoon decided, me and moving. Kisoon squat there for the remainder of the term. Never handed over the arrangement. And again, the devious nature of the PPP, I don't think the Constitution said, or the convention was that the deputy speaker should go to the largest block of opposition. They just said go to the opposition. So they say, well, Schumann was the opposition against Schumann. This time around, so you get the speaker, you get the deputy speaker, then you have to swear in all the members of parliament, all that were elected by the people of Guyana. So therefore, you got to swear in Mr. Azuddin Mohammed. Is it, I tell you all, I got a mind. Is it that they're going to try to do something so that Azuddin Mohammed is not sworn in as a member of parliament? Is that the plan to make sure that when we convene parliament, we delay it to such a time that maybe by then he is incarcerated, facing extradition, or perhaps even worse, by then he is extradited or he is rendered. I tell you all, you have to think about this thing, Don't sit back and tell you, PPP is known to manipulate the Constitution. They did so in 1999, when Bharat Jagdeo became president. He wasn't elected to be president. The Constitution already was manipulated. Not necessarily unconstitutional or illegal. Manipulated. Jagan died. Samines, according to the Constitution, as Prime Minister, took over. Then they went to the elections. At the next election, Janet Jagan was elected as president. She then, Samines, is now Prime Minister. Then in 1999, she, what did they do? Samines resigned as Prime Minister, and they appointed Bharat Jagdeo as Prime Minister. Once he was appointed Prime Minister, Janet Jagan stepped aside as President. And therefore, the Prime Minister, Jagdeo, became the President. And then he reappointed Samines as Prime Minister. They are known to manipulate the Constitution. So again, coming back to the current situation as Azuddin Mohammed, is it that they plan not to swear him as a member of parliament? And even if he's sworn in, is there a plan not for him to be the leader of the opposition? Because he has already indicated that he intends to be the leader of the opposition. Excuse me. And according to the convention, I understand, is that in the first meeting of the parliament, the speaker is elected, the deputy speaker is elected, the members of parliament are sworn in, and then that is the business for that day. Then the speaker has to call a meeting of members of the opposition. And at that meeting, the members of the opposition, because they say even though the speaker called the meeting, he doesn't vote, he ain't gonna vote. It's the members of the opposition will now vote for the leader of the opposition. So so listen carefully. The article, I think is 184, did not stipulate when or how soon after the swearing in of the speaker and the members of parliament that meeting to call to elect the leader of the opposition should be held. So is it that they're going to swear in and then they're going to, the speaker and call in this meeting to elect the leaders of the opposition? Come on, you got to look at all of these permutations and all these combinations and all the devious nature of the beast. You got to understand the beast. So, as I've said, we are in uncharted waters. And the GPS, the global position system, you know, the GPS, this thing that everybody using now carry you to direct you wherever you want to put in where you're going, you can carry you there. We understand we're in uncharted waters and the GPS is not working. So we don't got no direction to go. It's a whole set of things. What's going on? Because I suspect, I think Monday gone, we are over this indictment against the grand jury indictment. I sure by now the request has been made for the extradition. I sure by now they sent you documentation. And I sure by now that process is underway. Right? And I tell you all, the next thing you know, you get a Raja Khan. And you know what I mean by that? A rendition, extraordinary rendition, where they circumvent, they forget everything about the formal extradition process and just pick you up and carry you there. Pick you up and carry you. They have done it to war leaders, formal war leaders. I think Noriega was one of them, picked up and taken to the States and tried in jail. So let me watch where we there. We some interesting times. The mere fact that the president has failed to this day to make the proclamation, I think, is the first time in the history of modern Guyana that an election has been held. A cabinet is identified. Members of parliament are identified from the various parties at one seat. And you hear no proclamation to commence the new parliament. So we have a system here now where the government is not functioning as the constitution intended the government to function. Because as I've said repeatedly, this is not no civic lesson, but there are three branches of government. So right now you have the legislative, you have the executive branch, the president is his cabinet. You have the judicial branch, the courts and so on. But there is no legislative branch, which is the parliament. You don't have that. So let me see where this will go. Let us see. And we got to keep on it. As I've said, before I bring in Mr. Conway for his closing and we move on, I am certain that by now, that process to extradite or the request to have Azadin Mohammed extradited for the various offenses that he's alleged to have committed, right? That process is underway. I am sure the process is on the way. And I am sure that the delay in the proclamation for the 13th Parliament is part of all of that, My view, I can be wrong. That's what the crystal ball telling me. I can be wrong. Right? Let me bring in Mr. Conway for his closing to comment on that and to give his closing. See, this 2 hour done so quick, man. Let me hear your views.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I agree with you totally. I endorse your presentation. And actually, what they're doing, they're fiddling around the edges of the Constitution. They're fiddling around the edges of the Constitution. And I remember reading Alice in Wonderland, and it's a quote: "If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. If you don't know where you're going, any road would take you there." And another point, a positive one, I saw circulating in the police environment where I think Chase's Academy is offering free training for police who want to write the CXC, English and English A, I think, A and B. They're offering free, compulsory, and 2 other subjects, free of cost. So I want to urge all policemen, the opportunity is there for you to qualify yourself. You have CXC coming up, And Chase's Academy is offering free training for you members of the force. Grasp it with both hands. Grasp it with both hands. Any opportunity you get to develop yourself, make full use of it.
Thank you very much, brother. Let me say this before I close with the copy you're talking about. Somebody said that the leader of the opposition is a very important position. It is indeed a very important position. But I want to remind you, students, that a precedent was set as it relates to the constitutional provisions that require consultation between the president and the leader of the opposition to make certain appointments. You all recall with the appointment of Clifton Akin, it was argued in court that there was no consultation, right? And it was ruled, I can pull it up and read it to you at some subsequent time. It was ruled by the then Chief Justice that there was no leader of the opposition at the time when the appointment was made. So there could have been no consultation. That precedent has been set. I'm no legal person. Maybe the legal person can tell me whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong. But I say that as a result of that that precedent, don't put it beyond them to go ahead and do things without the leader of the opposition. So even if he's sitting down in jail somewhere in Miami, or even if he's in jail somewhere, or even the fighting with the extradition process, given that is how I interpret it. Given that precedent, they can decide they're appointing whoever they want to appoint, and we are consulting him because he's not available to be consulted. If he is indeed made the leader of the opposition. Come on, I got to think this thing through. I just think it through. That's the beauty about when you retire and you get time on your hand. You can think, you can read, especially you get a little thinking power. You can read, and I hope y'all understand. I just try to bring these things to you. Break it down. Fine. Break it down. We are, again, I say, we are in some interesting times. Because, again, according to the Constitution, the president has like about 3 weeks more to proclaim Parliament. So the window is closing rapidly. Then we have the Azadin scenario, where they're going to make a request to have him extradited to the scene, take him off the scene. And then he's already indicated that he intends to fight this extradition, he and his father. Jack Warner from Trinidad, the U.S. issued an indictment, grand jury indictment, and they went through trying to get him extradited to the U.S. Years and it took. And then Jack Warner prevailed. The court ruled that he ain't going nowhere, right? This one, I could anticipate can drag on years and years, even though the AG, the jump and tell you they made the process easier. Still got to go through the court, unless y'all decide to do a rendition. Anytime it gets into the court. And of course, if you get into the court, there are options, Again, I think about that, there are options, because in the options, you can decide to appoint a special magistrate who can just deal with this matter exclusively, which will speed up the process, or which should speed up. So there are a lot of things, students, a lot of things. And you are come to speaking out, and we are going to bring you the information. Yeah, Section 42, Wilfred tell you Section 42 in relation to the magistrate on the Summary Procedure Act in terms of the magistrate deciding that to no conviction and all of that. Yeah, Section 42. Right. Thanks, Wilfred. Right. So I'm saying this to say, again, interesting times ahead. Folks, we've had a wonderful Friday afternoon. I hope this would have prepared you for your weekend. You have a lot of homework to think and to read and to think about over the weekend. We will do so too. We will continue to research, and we're going to come to you and think. Things happened over the weekend. No, nothing. Fine thing happening over the weekend. We hope that we don't have fatal accidents or incidents. And God spare life. We're going to come here again on Monday. at 10, what was saying, at 11 o'clock. I'm getting confused with the time, man. Now it's old age. I don't blame me. A little old age, get a little speed wobble from 10 to 10. Yeah, we got to come on Monday, God's Prayer Live, to bring you another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Until then, stay well, be safe. We see you then. Bye.